Today, we're going to dive into Ian Watt's classic work, The Rise of the Novel, to figure out how a radical shift in storytelling happened. A change so big, it basically rewired how we think about what's real in a story. So, let's kick things off with a question that gets right to the heart of pretty much every story you love. What is it that makes something feel real, Why can one book make you feel like you're literally living inside someone else's head, while another one just feels like some dusty old myth? Well, back in 1957, a literary critic named Ian Watt came up with a really compelling theory. He argued that the novel, which just exploded in popularity in the 18th century, wasn't just another new genre. No, it was a completely new way of looking at reality itself. He had a name for its secret ingredient: formal realism. Okay, so what does that mean? Put simply, it's this idea that truth isn't some grand, universal thing found in old myths. Instead, truth is something that a single, ordinary person discovers through their own senses and their own experience. This was a huge philosophical shift, pushed forward by thinkers like Descartes and Locke, and it was about to change literature forever. And you can probably guess what happened next. This new focus on individual experience, well, it created a big problem. The old way of telling stories, the old plots, they just didn't work anymore. The very foundation of storytelling had to be torn down and rebuilt from scratch. Just look at this. It's a complete break from everything that came before. See, writers like Shakespeare or Chaucer, they drew from this big shared bucket of stories, from history, from mythology. They saw human nature as this kind of fixed library of stories that you could just retell. The novel basically just tossed that whole library out the window. As Ian Watt himself puts it, the first true novelists, guys like Daniel Defoe and Samuel Richardson, they weren't just retelling old stories. They were making up something totally new, right from their own imagination. So here's the really crucial part. The story was now driven by a character's personal, moment-to-moment reality. The plot wasn't some map laid out by an ancient myth. It was this messy, unpredictable journey based entirely on what this specific person might actually think or feel or do next. And there's no better example of this new power than Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. This wasn't a story about a king or a god. It was a made-up story about a regular guy just trying to survive. But it was so packed with these authentic, even mundane details, building a fence, planting corn, that people who first read it, they were totally convinced it was a real diary. Okay, so you've got these brand new plots, but for them to work, the people in the stories had to feel just as new and real, and that led to a complete rethinking of what a character even is. And the first change seems almost ridiculously simple, but it was huge. Their names. Characters weren't just called the Knight or Mr. Badman anymore, names that basically tell you their job or if they're a good guy or a bad guy. Nope. Suddenly, they were given full, ordinary names, just like real people. Robinson Crusoe, Moll Flanders, Pamela Andrews. And it wasn't just the names. Time itself suddenly mattered a lot. The fuzzy, once upon a time of fairy tales was gone. It was replaced by shockingly specific dates and times. Crusoe doesn't just get shipwrecked. He gets shipwrecked on the 30th of September, 1659. Wow. That kind of detail just anchors you right there in the story's timeline. And of course, the world these characters lived in got the same high-def treatment. Instead of a generic castle or a dark forest, novels give us specific houses on specific streets. The world was described with this new, almost photographic detail that made it all feel so solid and so real. So, let's step back. When you put all of this together, the plot, the characters, the world, what you get isn't just a new type of book, it's a complete revolution in how we tell stories about ourselves. So here it is, the secret sauce, the 3 key ingredients for this new kind of realism. First, you start with original plots that come from an individual's experience, not from tradition. Second, you fill it with particular characters who feel like unique people, not just types. And third, you ground them in a really specific, detailed world of time and place. You put those 3 things together and bam, you get this powerful impression of reality. And you have to understand, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. It wasn't just a bunch of writers deciding to do something new. The rise of the novel perfectly mirrored this huge cultural shift that was happening, a growing fascination with the individual. For a society that was just starting to believe that every single person's life story was unique and important, well, the novel was the perfect art form. And this all leaves us with a really fascinating question for our own time. I mean, think about our world today. We are drowning in personal stories, from reality TV to our own social media feeds. So what does it even mean for a story to feel real now? That's the question the first novelists started asking, and it's one we're definitely still trying to answer today.